You found yourself on another episode of Locked On Bulls. On today's episode, me and Pat are going to continue our player reviews for the 2023-24 season today with Nikola Vucevic and DeMar DeRozan. And we're also going to talk about the pros and cons of re-signing DeMar DeRozan this offseason. We're going to get into all and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. That's Pat the Designer, host and creator of the Windy City Breeze and host of the Chicago Bears podcast over at ESPN 1000. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls Central and Chicago Bears Central YouTube pages and podcasts. And we're coming to you fresh out of draft weekend for the Chicago Bears as well. We still have Bears gear on. It's been a great draft weekend for us. But today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it. I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friend and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. Pat, let's get into these season reviews that we're doing for these players' evaluations. We're going to start it off with I won't even call it polarizing. I used to say it's like Nikola Vucevic was polarizing. I don't even think it's polarizing anymore. I think everybody's kind of gone over to the bad side when it comes to Vooch now. This season kind of solidified that. Now the most polarizing player is the decision that the Bulls have to make on DeMar, who we'll also talk about on this episode. But when it comes to Nikola Vucevic, how do you grade Vooch's season, Pat?
I mean, listen, I give it a C at best. I think that there are ups and there are downs, and because of that, you have to take the ups with the downs, and you kind of expect that from Vooch at this point. And I think that's kind of where a lot of people have the beef with him. I've never been somebody who puts this expectation of Nikola Vucevic being a lockdown defender or a paint protector on him because he's the center. Like, you find me 5 European bigs that are built that way. I mean, outside of realistically Rudy Gobert and Wemby, I mean, there's not really many in the NBA that you look at and you're like, yeah, this guy's an elite lockdown paint defender. So I think for me, like, I don't put the defensive expectations on him, but I do put the offensive expectations on him. If you're not going to be good, and I think this is the biggest difference, if you're not going to be good defensively, you have to be consistent offensively. You don't have to be great because Vooch is coming in as the third scorer on the team, whatever it is, whatever order of health there is out there. But you do have to be consistent. And I think Vooch was just a little bit too inconsistent this season. You'd have the games where he's sitting there dominating. He's got 26 and 15. And you're like, there's the Vooch that we've been looking for. And then like 2 days later, you're sitting there looking at him like, how the heck did you come out of a game with 10 and 10 with a negative 15 net rating or a offensive rating on the day? You know what I mean? Like, there's too much parity in Vooch's game this season. And listen, he's 33 years old. We're starting to see him go the other way. That was the concern with signing him. I don't think signing him was the worst move that the Bulls could have made that last offseason, but I do think that you wanted to see, listen, if you're going to decline, just give me the consistent decline. I don't need the 29-point games if you're giving me the 18 and 11 every night.
You said 29 and 11?
I said I don't need the 29-point games if you're just giving me like the 18 and 11 every night.
I was about to say, if you give us 29 and 11, you're an MVP candidate nowadays. Like,
you ain't lying, dog.
I was like, he just casually threw out 29. Yeah, just go out there and give me 29 and 11. Vooch,
I mean, he kind of did. He gave us 29 and 11 in that last game versus the Knicks. Like, he kind of does that every now and then.
And this is the thing, right? And this is why I always say, like, when Vooch is playing right, he still does impact winning hugely for the Bulls. In the Bulls wins this season, Nikola Vucevic averages 19 points per game, 11 rebounds, 1 block, 1 steal, 4 assists on almost 50% shooting in games where he's in wins for the Chicago Bulls. That's how important Vooch can still be to winning. In losses, it's in the toilet. 16 points per game, still 10 rebounds. He's giving you less than a block, less than a steal, still the same 3 assists, but 48% shooting. So it's like when Vooch is engaged, he still can be a very, I don't want to call special because that's not the right word. He can still be a very impactful player offensively, right? We all know that. And he was much better post All-Star break than pre-All-Star break. The 26 games post All-Star break, 19 points, 10 rebounds. He did that on 50% shooting as well, and 33% shooting from three post All-Star break. He played much better post All-Star, but like you said, it wasn't consistent. And at this point, when you have a veteran center, you at least should be banking on that we can bet on you being consistent for us.
Yeah.
And we haven't been able to do that yet.
And I think that's my thing, right? Listen, the averages are the averages. If you look at his averages, he's not that bad outside of his 3-point percentage, right? 18 points a game, 10.5 rebounds a game. Technically, he got better outside of his percentages, points on the game, rebounds, assists per game, stuff like that. But they're Chris Middleton stats. And I use Chris Middleton because Chris Middleton is somebody who got paid big money by putting up stats similar to that. He can go out and give you 40 points. And then the next game, he'll give you 7. And that's just kind of who he is as a player. It's not going to be a night in, night out basis. But, my averages look good. I still look like I'm a dominant player. 18, and if you told me every night we're getting 18 and 10 on 48% shooting from the field, I can live with that.
Yeah.
But the problem is there are some nights, especially from the 3-point line, where even with the 3-point shooting, right, he had some hot games shooting the 3.
And hit some clutch threes for us in a few games down the stretch of that game too, where you're just like,
yeah,
all right, Vooch, now do it again.
And then you get the flip side of it, where it's like, how'd you go 0 for 14? Where'd you find 14 shots? Where did you find the time to take 14 shots with none of them made?
And here's the thing that this could sound harsh, yes, but here's the thing that I'm going to say. Is that I always use what players say kind of in a way to judge them as well. Yeah. Vooch came and sat there media day before the season started. He particularly said, well, the last year was the only year he said this specifically. He said, if you take away my 3-point shot, I'm still a dominant center in the post.
Yeah.
Do you remember that you said that, Vooch? Because my question is, why is there games where you're shooting 6 and 7 3-pointers and not hitting any of them?
Yeah. Well, I think my problem with that is too, right? The Bulls are so in desperate need of spacing. You're asking players to do something they're not supposed to do. You're asking Vooch. I've said this many times. The Bulls have this thing, and they've had this thing for probably the last 4 big men that they've had on their team that have the shooting ability. They think they have shooting big men when realistically they have big men that can shoot. That's very different. Those are very different. Nicholas Batum, by all definitions of the word, is a shooting big man. Al Horford has turned himself into a shooting big man, although that's kind of fallen off this season. But there are guys that are shooting. You said what?
Brook Lopez, another one that
Brook Lopez turned himself into a shooting big man, where it's like, what does this dude do? He's gonna be in that corner. You're gonna F up your defensive rotation, and he's gonna knock down a 3 because he's that good at shooting that shot. Nikola Vucevic does everything else on the court pretty well. Mid-range shot, float game, back to the basket game. And the 3-ball is kind of the least of the things that he can do. And yet in Billy Donovan's system, that's what we continue to ask him to be. I don't know if you know this or not, but the guy that actually was pretty good at that, you got rid of him the first year of Billy Donovan's tenure, which, listen, injuries play into that. I get why, right? Larry was in and out of the lineup. But I just think that the big man that they've been looking for has never been Nikola Vucevic. And the reason that you're trying to turn Nikola Vucevic into that type of big man is because you refuse to address shooting anywhere else on the court. So while yes, I do think Vooch has woefully underperformed this year and played at a much lower level, I do look at some of Billy's system. I do look at the utilization of Vooch and say, well, I know why he's playing at a poor level, because you keep throwing him out there on the 3-point line and telling him shoot it when you're open.
And also, there are times where we can't identify entry pass to save our damn life as a team. Now, there are also some times where Vooch gets the mismatch and he gets the ball and he dribbles twice and passes out of it. But there are also times where they just can't get him the ball. So it's a lot of different things going on. And the most blame goes on Vooch as a player. Make no mistake about it. But there are still other things that do contribute on top of. He plays with the player and DeMar DeRozan that him and DeMar literally start their offense from the same exact spots, and somebody got to move.
Yeah.
So
100%.
That's just the place that we unfortunately find ourselves at with Bulls. And that goes right back to why the front office has a place in all of this, because this is the roster that you constructed. and it's forced players to play in ways that are different, that are natural to them. And then when you do that, you end up falling short sometimes. And that's where the Bulls are set for a while.
And somehow we're surprised at the end of every season.
Listen, and that's the thing. And I had to talk about that today over on Central, because we fall as a fandom overall. I know some people don't, it doesn't matter, right? But we see those flashes and those glimpses, and we're like, dang, if we can just get a 3-game winning streak, bet 2 more games we're above 5. Oh wait, we lost 4. It's the back and forth every single time, man.
We'll always be Sisyphus.
With that said, man, next up we're going to continue our season reviews, this time talking about DeMar DeRozan season. But before we get into that, I got to talk to you guys about one of our sponsors, and that is Nissan. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capabilities to take your adventure to the next level. The 2024 Nissan Rogue is perfect for city drives and great escapes. Class exclusive, Google built-in, your always updating assistant to call on almost anything. Gone are the days of connecting your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, and Google Play Store are built right into the 12.3-inch HD touchscreen infotainment system. The 2024 Rogue is the perfect mid-size crossover for your next adventure. The 2024 Nissan Armada as well will change what you expect from a full-size SUV. Picture a rugged 4x4 that can seat up to 8 in first-class luxury and style, tow bigger, and explore further in the 2024 Armada. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, Nissan Armada, and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Also got to talk to you guys about one of the games that I have been playing a whole heck of a lot of lately, and that is Monopoly Go.
He's
all right. What? All right, game off. We got to pause here and talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there is just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each player's board. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. Unique stickers that you can trade with a friend to complete albums for big prizes. Cool new playing pieces to travel boards with. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings and heist their votes. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges, and a ton to include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot panko machine, whichever that means. And there's always new time events to help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent-free frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now for free on Google Play or the App Store. Game on. All right, Pat. DeMar DeRozan season. Now, I would say that because of the contract situation, DeMar DeRozan has probably become one of the more polarizing players to talk about. I don't even think Zach LaVine is as polarizing anymore. It really comes down to DeMar. The reported 2-year, $80 million deal that, you have your way on. The years are okay. The money may be a whole heck of a lot. But outside of us talking about that, which we'll get into a little bit next segment, how do you rank the season for DeMar DeRozan? What grade do you give DeMar this season?
I think I give DeMar like a B. You know what I mean? Like a meets expectations almost, right? He didn't exceed anything. He didn't underwhelm us. I think DeMar was who DeMar is and who he's continued to be. When you look at his ability to absolutely turn it on at any point, he's one of the best in the NBA. When you look at how unstoppable his mid-range is, he's one of the best in the NBA. I guess if there's any knock, it's the same knocks that have been on him his entire career defensively, just minimal effort and minimal ability to try and really stand in front of anybody unless, it comes down to crunch time. Then all of a sudden, miraculously, he's able to get it going. But DeMar is who DeMar is, man. And I think that he did if anything, maybe I'll push it to a B+, maybe only because I think he did a good job of adapting his role to Kobe White early on in the season when he saw him start to get himself going. To Ayo Dosunmu when he saw how Ayo was able to go out there and play. But at the end of the day, DeMar being the closer, being the guy that's going to finish the game off, being the guy that's going to go out there and be the face of this Bulls team, he did that the same way that he's done it his entire time here. And I guess I'm not mad at it. I didn't feel like DeMar had a bad season. I didn't feel like he had an amazing season either. Yeah, there's no
DeMar season.
In this one. I wasn't
DeMar season.
I wasn't overwhelmed. I wasn't underwhelmed.
Just whelmed.
I was just whelmed.
Yeah.
I was whelmed.
And that's what it is, and there's nothing wrong with that. I know some of the DeMar lovers are going to hear that and say, "How can you guys say that about a guy who scored such and such points in the clutch? The Bulls were 27 and 17. All that, yeah, all that's true. But I think when you look at it, yeah, but you got to also look at why some of those games we were in the clutch. Some of that was because of DeMar DeRozan. Not all. And listen, nobody. I say this. And nothing that I talk about means that we're blaming all the team's woes on the thing that we're talking about. We're being topical right now. DeMar DeRozan's defense is a problem. It just is what it is. Now, there is some things that you can absolutely do with the roster construction to help that. The Bulls haven't done that yet, but until they do, guess what? DeMar DeRozan's defense is a problem, a big problem. And so, but I look at the things that DeMar has done well. He adapted about as well as he can to a team that wants to play faster. I got to give him his credit for that because I didn't even expect what he could do. Leading the break, even at times where he noticed that Kobe and Ayo had it rolling, he definitely took a back seat. He took the least amount of shots he's taken this year. In his career with the Bulls. Also, his usage rate was down because he allowed that to happen. You got to give him credit for that. Now, some of the things that did happen in the clutch time as far as him being Billy Donovan's crutch, that's not all on DeMar. That's Billy's play calling. And so, it kind of is what it is there. But, DeMar was what he needed to be this season. And that's why I say even in, my thought process, in which we'll talk about next season on DeMar's next contract, it has nothing to do with DeMar the player. DeMar the player has been everything he's been advertised to be and everything that you expect him to be. You didn't expect him to come in here for defense. You expect him to come in here and help him close games. You expect him to come in here and help the Bulls get a bucket when we couldn't get one because either players were afraid to shoot, didn't shoot, or sucked at shooting. And DeMar has done all of that consistently. He did that again last season. Like you said, solid B for DeMar DeRozan. I can't give him anything less than that.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna grade him on anything that, like you said, I didn't expect him to come into this game doing, right? Like I've never seen DeMar DeRozan be an elite defender, so I'm not expecting him to be an elite defender. It would be nice if, like, in some of these moments you could help defensively a little bit. But I just think that, when I look at DeMar, especially, like how I guess he's accomplished the job that it seems like AK brought him here to do. That's what I'll say about DeMar DeRozan. He's accomplished the job of making the Bulls a competitive team. He's accomplished the job of helping some of these young guys kind of find their ways on the court. This season, I thought he did a good job allowing them to flourish when they needed to flourish. And listen, at the end of games, I don't mind. I've said this a million times. My problem with DeMar is not DeMar in the fourth quarter. My problem with DeMar is not DeMar closing out games, because guess what? He's pretty freaking good at it. Like, you can't be mad at somebody being utilized for something that they're actually pretty good at. But I do think that there is you would like to see kind of that torch get passed, and maybe that torch ends up getting passed after this season is done. If they do end up holding on to DeMar or don't end up holding on to DeMar, we'll see what happens next season. But it's what he did in quarters 1 through 3 that I think stands out to me the most, allowing Kobe White to go out there and say, okay, we're seeing something out of the young guy. I'm not going to force my hand. I'm not going to force him to put the ball in my hands because I'm seeing him go out there and cook. And yeah, in those fourth quarter moments, is there some surprise when you go complete one-on-one? Is there some times where we say, hey, maybe we need to get the team involved a little bit more? For sure. But I also don't complain about it when young stars are doing it. I don't complain about it when I see LeBron do it in the fourth quarter because he's trying to avoid playoff elimination. I don't complain about it when I see Anthony Edwards absolutely eviscerating Kevin Durant in the fourth quarter. Yeah, I mean, like, so I'm fine with you having those one-on-one moments. I just think, and he did a good job of this, adjusting. What we saw this season was probably the best version of it. You got to be able to know when that's acceptable and when it's not. And I think we saw a lot more of that this year.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like, when it comes down to it, man, I mean, whether DeMar stays here or not, you still need changes to this roster, right? If DeMar does end up staying, like I alluded to earlier, you're going to have things that you change around, but that's not something you can blame on DeMar. DeMar doesn't build the roster here. He comes here to play. He has no say in roster input. So I can't knock him for some of the shortcomings that you knew that DeMar was going to bring. You didn't prepare for that the best. Well, I guess you kind of did in Lonzo. He helped a lot with that, but you didn't have a second game plan for that. And now you're seeing that repeatedly. So kind of is what it is there.
Yeah, you haven't adjusted it in 2 seasons. Yeah, I mean, Lonzo hasn't been out there for a while. I think that's more of the sin than anything. And your answer was Javon Carter. All right, Leroy's in the building. Let's keep this thing moving along, man. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, showing love. We got to talk about the pros and cons of possibly keeping DeMar on the Chicago Bulls. What would a contract extension mean for this team? But first, we do have to tell you guys all about DoorDash. Listen. This episode's brought to you by DoorDash. And right now, DoorDash is all about making moms smile right now with a 50% offer off your next order up to $15 when you spend $15+ on your next order of flowers, convenience store items, groceries, retail orders on DoorDash right now. Moms are a gift, so give her the best gift this Mother's Day. Get the gifts as thoughtful as she is with DoorDash. Select from hundreds of expertly crafted bouquets, the best of tech to self-care essential and more, delivered right to her front door. They need to, you think DoorDash can incorporate like the singogram thing they used to do back in like the 70s and 80s?
That would, you know what? I would definitely, yeah.
Like if you could just
I'd send you one just to troll you.
Like, what a dick!
like get him to show up at your house and start and do the Tupac Hail Mary like at your door like.
That's how you got to do it, bro. You got to do Dear Mama, bro. You send her the DoorDash order. The DoorDash guy sings Dear Mama. You got to throw him an extra $5 on the tip for that.
That's crazy.
Hey, man, pair of flowers with a gift card so that she can celebrate in any way that she wants. Is she a bookworm? Try a bookstore gift card. Does she love a good latte? Get her a gift card to her favorite coffee shop. You can do all of that with DoorDash. Get all your Mother's Day gifts all in one place. Get 50% off your next order, up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next order of flowers, grocery, or retail items. Now with the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's Locked On NBA. Order using DoorDash today. Terms and conditions do apply.
Wow, I had no idea I even activated that effect.
That's going crazy. On there?
Well, I mean, now since we're doing that,
what are the pros and cons of re-signing DeMar DeRozan?
DeMar DeRozan is the greatest shooting guard of all time. What do you mean pros and cons? It's all pros, baby.
I'm sorry. The DeMar fans get excited.
And they really do. They really do get excited. Well, I mean, you want to take it away first as far as pros and cons?
Listen, my pros for re-signing DeMar, stability, comfort. You know what this guy brings. You know the ability that he has. All the things that we just talked about. A fourth quarter closer, a guy who has a dominant edge, and has is to his credit, a lead by example type of guy. Y'all get on my back and I'm going to lead us to where we need to go. I think if you pair that up with a vocal leader in that Kobe White is slowly becoming, you could see some good things flourish from that. My cons right now, I mean, they all have to do with contract. Like, it all has to do with the money, because I have a tough time seeing how you're going to re-sign DeMar at $40 million a year and build a different team, build a different core, I don't know how you do it. It literally seems, because here's the one thing we do know, unfortunately, they're re-signing P. Will. So all your offseason money is in those two guys. That's the same team.
The only thing that could bring about change if you do re-sign DeMar to the $40 million. Now, if it's less than that, you leave yourself some wiggle room, right? But if it is the $40 million, and we're just using that because that is what has been rumored so far until we hear otherwise, if it is the $40 million contract offer, the only other hope that you have is that you're trading Zach LaVine and one or two things are happening. You're getting at least 3 really solid role players back or more, or they're absorbing about a third to half of Zach LaVine's contract into cap space, to where then you're adding some flexibility money-wise because you're not taking back $40 million that you're sending out. That's the only way that I can see it if you plan on giving DeMar DeRozan a $40 million contract.
And you get and to me, I think the only other thing you can do is right now, this moment, season's over. Get ready to apply for the career-ending injury exception. Are we really about to try and Jamal Murray this with Lonzo Ball? Very different injuries, guys.
Yeah, I've said it before, and I've said this. If by the draft, I'm talking about whenever they're sending. Well, by the way, I wonder who's going to be a representative at the lottery this year, because they always pick somebody weird. You know what? I wouldn't be surprised if it's John Paxson. That's some stuff that they would do and have John Paxson, or maybe Noah's been in the news a lot lately. Maybe it could be Joakim Noah.
Could be Joakim. Denzel Valentine's gums, I've heard, are up for
I don't know if they can afford the gums, bro. That's a lofty builder. But I just by the draft, as you're heading to the draft, if you at the doctors or whatever aren't like, yeah, we're about 90% sure he's going to get cleared, file the injury exception. At that point, bite the bullet. If he's cleared after that, they'll take it away. But
you've gone so far down the process, he might actually be cleared now. His career might not be ending. The NBA might deny you. Now, the career-ending injury exception doesn't mean that his career is over. It just means that you realize
there's
this
a higher
guy's
probability not. And it doesn't mean that he can't actually return. It's just that an independent doctor will have to look at it and say there's a higher probability than not that he is not going to be able to return to basketball, which with the nature of the injury. Now, unless he's out there, and that's the thing, though. I hear that he's had no setbacks. He's still not doing 5-on-5. He's still not running full court. He's still not taking contact. So it's like, yeah, there have been no hurdles, but honestly, what are the hurdles that have possibly presented themselves either way yet when you're going up against pads? So
I don't know. I think my major thing right now is I don't know how you're going to open up money to sign DeMar, and that's my biggest con right now. So that's those are my pros and cons. There's a bunch of ways to try and get it done, and I don't believe the Bulls will do any of them.
And that is the con isn't necessarily DeMar the player. There's always a value that makes a player worth it. And I think there is a value in DeMar that would definitely make it worth it to bring him, because listen, what he brings, mentorship, closing out games, all that stuff is still there. Scoring wise in the fourth, all that stuff's still there. But it's the price tag on it. That's the thing that comes back to all of this. And if you're really trying to change this roster, which you have said that you notice needs change, I just don't see how you get that done there. But hey, I mean, that's why they pay AK the big bucks is all I can say.
Never let it be said. We've talked about DeMar's defense a lot. I'd love a team that all we're worried about is hey, they score enough points to get the job done, but they need to improve a little bit defensively. I would love to have that team. You know why? Those teams are in the playoffs.
Bro, watching these playoffs has really made me realize just how, and not that I thought they were competitive, but AK used the wrong word, bro. Because if you watch the basketball that's being played in this playoffs, the Bulls aren't coming close.
Oh, I'm so glad they missed. I'm not gonna lie to you. After watching, and I know Miami game 2 was maybe Boston's struggling to get Miami game 3. Hey, listen, I'm so glad the Bulls aren't in a playoff, because I do believe the Miami team that they have right now is better than the Chicago Bulls.
Well, and they're better coached. The coach gets more out of it too. So yeah, it's just like I said. And by team, I'm not just even talking about the roster, the skill level. I'm also talking about coaching. Listen, the coaching that we're seeing in this playoffs, bro, this has been some of the best coaching from the teams that are winning that I've seen. You talking about strategy, bro? It sucks that the Minnesota Timberwolves coach got what he tore something in the last game.
Yeah. Got ran over. I think he tore the Achilles, maybe. Chris Finch.
It's something. I think it's a patella. I think it's the patella.
I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie to you. I know he was in an excruciating. He tore his patella tendon after the collision. I know he's in an excruciating amount of pain, and this is full meathead in me. That's all it. I know what it is. I would have loved for him to be get off me. I'm coaching this next minute and 41 seconds. And then we'll go get the extra. I would have loved it. Now I don't know, right? I don't know if that could cause him to lose his leg or something like that if you go through something like that. I don't know what the extreme is. The cons, I guess, for lack of a better word, because I can't think of one right now, or the repercussions, I should say, of waiting on that. But it would have been so good if he just leaned up against the table, get off of me. I'm finishing coaching this game. It was all right, that's a Riley breaking his hand moment for me.
That's hilarious. Any last thoughts before we get up out of here?
Nah, man, I got nothing else. The Bulls are we until they prove something to us, we're all skeptical. Follow us on everything at Locked On Bulls. You can follow me on everything at Pat the Designer and Chris Finch. Is he going to be on the wheel? Didn't McHale have that for a little bit? Remember Kevin McHale was coaching?
I think he will be. But you guys, no, he can't because the patella, they actually have to keep the leg perfectly straight. So he's going to have that brace that keeps the leg perfectly straight. It's either the scooter or brace where he's going to be on crutches.
That's what I'm saying. The little scooter thing where it's because it got to be
yeah. But you guys can follow me, CEO Haize, man. Want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Bulls. We are free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube. For Pat the Designer, this has been Locked On Bulls. We out here. Peace, y'all.
Peace. They should get him a Segway, like a mall cop. Just zooming back up and down the sideline.